The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. You're listening to Paranormal Concept right here on Parasearch UK Radio with your host, Paul Rook.
Evening, everyone, and welcome to another, the first edition of Paranormal Concept for 2019. How are you all? And Kerry Greenaway is with me as well tonight. So, how was your Christmas, Kerry?
It was good, thanks. I'm sorry about the gap. I forgot the mute buttons.
It was terrible.
Oh, Brendan.
Oh, Brendan Shay's with us, is he?
I think no. Oh God! Carry on. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment.
We're just waiting for our guest to show up tonight through Skype. So we can just talk about, I don't know, what do you want to talk about, Kerry?
Well, let's talk about your events coming up, because you were talking to me a minute ago about some events you were setting up for Phoenix. I mentioned it on the live as well, didn't I?
Okay, cool. We've got quite a few events coming up. At the moment, I've only gone up to about March, I think. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and find the website very quickly and just sort of let you know what events we've got coming up. We've got a private event in February, 9th of February, and that's at a location in Colchester. At the moment, I'm not going to tell anybody whereabouts it is because I said it's a private event, but we will do a show on it maybe the week after to do like an aftermath show. We've also got Saltmarsh Hall coming up on the 23rd of February, and we're selling tickets at £39 for that. That's in Yorkshire, a place called Howden. I don't know how you pronounce that.
Howden, I think it is.
Yeah, our very own Mark Manley is managing that event for us. So he will be there, and I'm sure he'll be in the garden somewhere shouting at aliens.
You never know.
No, you don't, do you?
With that one.
But no, it's a location that he came to us with, and we thought, you know what, actually, Saltmarsh Hall, I've heard some really good things about it. We thought we'd book it. So we got that one on the 23rd of February. We have also got Fort Amherst in Chatham. Again, that's £39 per person. And we've also booked the Gatehouse as well for the location. So not only we've got Fort, we've got the Gatehouse as well. And that's not done very, but very active.
And I do believe the lovely Brendan Shay is with us.
Hey, you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Brendan. Thank you for joining us. Oh, sorry about that. That was a little bit tense, wasn't it?
It was, wasn't it? I'd have to wing it at the beginning. That was, yeah. So, anyway, what I'll do, I'll post out the website on the chat room in a very short while, and we'll welcome Brendan Shay into the studio. So, hello, Brendan.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm not too bad, thanks. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. It's sunny where I'm at, but it's like really gusty and the wind is blowing like really, really hard. So,
is that a typical Christmas where you are?
No, it's actually like 50-something degrees outside.
Oh, wow.
So,
very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like -3 or something outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Brendan, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of your background? How did you get into the paranormal, first of all?
I've been actively investigating the paranormal for about 11 years now, and I actually got my start because when I was a kid, I remember my first paranormal experience, and I've told this story a bunch of times, but I was like 6 years old, and I was in my apartment, and I grew up in Staten Island, New York, in the United States. And I remember laying in bed, and I was looking at this weird shadow on the wall, and all of a sudden it like appeared to be like a figure sitting in a chair almost. And then the striking part about it is that it looked like a little child figure jumped up on this figure's lap, and their feet like rhythmically started like tapping in time, like they were listening to music or something like that. And as a kid, it didn't really click. It just scared the crap out of me so bad that, I had to go back and relate as I got older to really understand what was going on. So as I became an adult, I was able to rationalize it, but I remember it vividly to a T. But it's always stuck with me, like, these unexplained things happen to me for a long time, my whole life. So every single time that I went to the library, if there was a book about the unknown or ghosts or Bigfoot or UFOs, I was reading it. And it finally got to a point where, I was starting to take these little ghost tours or whatever around the area that I lived at. And in 2003, my mother passed away, and I had some really weird things happen that only could have been her, sending me some messages. So it just got me to start being like, there's something to this, and I have to go and figure out what it is. And I haven't looked back since.
Would you consider yourself then sort of like a medium or some sort of clairvoyant or something?
I don't consider myself that. I have a very good friend who is very, very psychic, and her mentor, who actually is my very close. Well, we're becoming close, but she says that I have some gift that I don't use, that I haven't really tapped into yet, but also I've passed it along to my daughter. So I don't go out and say it, but I can walk into a room and know when things are going to be active or when they're not going to be active. But I haven't tried to sit there and communicate with anything as far as like, psychics do and in that aspect. But I don't really consider myself psychic.
Cool.
Post-death experiences when someone's passed is really common, isn't it? How did they happen for you, if you don't mind talking about it?
My mother, she was pregnant with my youngest sister, and she had like a rare thing called an amniotic embolism. And basically what it was a blood vessel burst in her amniotic sac, and it killed her instantly. And they say like it happens on occasion, but it only kills like 1 in a million women. So it was just like a real quick thing. And, it was one of those abrupt deaths that I think, she wasn't done telling us stuff. So she came back.
And how did she come back to you? How did you know it was her?
Because there were dreams that I had, and it was only stuff that me and her had talked about, and it could be a subconscious thing, but also I had some really strange occurrences happen around my home, like I heard my name called in her voice, and just a couple other really personal things that were just, I knew, there was no doubt in my mind that it was her trying to, and I've never really had, this was like probably for the first 6 months after she passed away, and I haven't really had anything about her since, and it's been 15 years.
Wow. Yeah, because it's really common in the first year post-death of a person, it's really common, and then it does tend to pass out, pass away, and that direct communication does seem to fade off. It is one of those phenomena that's been actually researched quite an awful lot from psychologists actually, and they can't explain it all the time, which is quite good to know. It could be that she did visit you.
Yeah, well, a weird thing is my sister had a weird thing with my mom. Like, I'm the oldest of 12 kids, and my mom had a special relationship with each one of us, and my sister had this thing with 4-leaf clovers with my mom. And every time something good happens to my sister, she finds a 4-leaf clover. So, there's that. And that still happens to her all the time. But I think that's kind of weird.
That's sweet as well, isn't it? 4-leaf clover. They're very lucky.
Yeah.
Luckiest person alive, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get in touch with Brendan's sister, I feel.
Rousseau.
So, Brendan, what was the first ghost hunting experience you went on as like a guest? Like, right before you embraced it for yourself. What was the first one you did for you?
I was dating this girl. I was trying to impress her. I was this young, studly guy trying to impress this girl I was on a date with, and I was like, "Oh, let's go on this ghost tour. I won't be scared." And we actually, I live in Central Ohio, the state of Ohio in the United States, and our capital is Columbus. And there's a very famous author who is from this area, Rupert. And he grew up in this haunted house, and he actually wrote a couple stories about it. Well, you can take tours of his house, but during Halloween time, of course, they do the haunted tours where you can walk to each location in the area and you visit the different places that are supposedly haunted. And I walked into the James Rupert house, and this kind of takes on maybe the psychic thing or the sensitive ability that I had. I immediately walked in there, and I knew something was not right, and I felt like a choking sensation around my throat. And, I had a couple weird experiences while I was there on the tour that I couldn't explain. But after that, man, I was hooked. Like, even it's not just about the paranormal aspect of it or the ghost hunting. It's the whole history. Like, I'm obsessed with history.
You are.
So, yeah, oh, yeah. So, like, this whole thing just had me hooked right away. And then, I actually got to go on an investigation by myself. When me and my daughter's mom were together, we started a ghost hunting team together, and we actually got to investigate this lawyer's office. And we had an incredible amount of evidence in such a short amount of time. And, it was my first experience actually having to go back and review the evidence and the audio, and we got some really clear, cool EVPs. And after that, man, I was like, I got to join a legit team. I got on a legit team, and like I said, I haven't looked back.
So you mentioned that you really like the history side. I know this about you, and one of your focuses is actually helping to raise funds to save locations, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, I am part with the team that I'm on now, Resident Undead. We have a web series on YouTube. Our director and founder, Adam Kimmel, he actually owns a 72,000 square foot seminary, and it was actually many things in its 175-year history. But it's most notably known for being an asylum where mental patients were housed. But this building is a juggernaut. It's gigantic. It's beautiful. It has ties to the Civil War. It has ties to, like I said, the psychiatric units that were around the area. And he bought the place. The place was in shambles. And we actually, the past 2 years, have raised a huge amount of money to save this building. The property was going into ruin, and we actually saved it from being destroyed. So, yeah, I mean, and just... We have famous ties to a couple spies who were in the Civil War. Anybody knows American history, we had the Civil War in the 1800s. And, it's an incredible, beautiful building, and it's right on the shores of Lake Erie, which is in the northern part of Ohio, right across from Canada. So, I mean, it's a gorgeous place. And like I said, you go there. And my big thing is you go to some of these places and you get to walk in the footsteps of some of these most notable people, and also just know that the horrible things happened here. Not that that was a good thing, but, to be able to bring that past, to these people now and just say, hey, like, this is the history that happened here, and this isn't just going to be one of them places that you just come for the ghosts or whatever. We want you to relive what it was like, and know what happened in this building, because we love it so much. So, I mean, yeah, being part of Resident Undead now, and actually I was part of Madison Seminary before I joined Resident Undead, but being able to come in there and help save this property with my really great, good friends, like that's what made it 10 times better.
Paul?
Yeah. What is your take on demons? And have you ever experienced anything while you're there?
Like demons in general, or you talk about like Madison Seminary?
Madison Seminary, in that location.
You know what? There's a guy that haunts that place that he's not too friendly, but I all the people who've been there, like I said, on our team we have 2 pretty credible, powerful psychics, and nothing like that's ever really been picked up as far as like that goes, demonic wise. But there is supposedly a doctor there who mistreated a lot of patients, who supposedly still haunts that location. And we have the 4th floor we call the asylum. That's where the patients would have been held. And up there, it's really creepy, and it's got a very different vibe than the rest of the building. And we think that that's where that doctor hangs out. But we work very closely. Do you guys know who Michelle Belanger is? Have you heard Michelle Belanger? She was on Paranormal State. No.
Oh, no. I don't know then, no.
She was on the show Paranormal State for a long time, and then she did Psychic Kids with Chip Coffee. But she is a very powerful psychic, very legit. She's a great person, too, and we work very closely with her, and she actually had a couple odd experiences there that, she talked about somebody being, there that was mistreating a lot of patients. So we think that is pretty much the only bad entity that's there. The rest of the ghosts we've experienced there are, I think, people who with somewhat like mental disabilities, or just people who used to work on the grounds, or who used to live on the Civil War side of the building. Because the history of the building, like it started out as like a seminary, like a school for priests, and then as the community was growing, they decided, hey, we're going to make this into a school. So they brought both men and women into the school. And then as the Civil War started happening, there was a lot of families that were displaced. People were getting killed in the war. So they started bringing the widows, the orphans to live in this building. And then the Women's Relief Corps, which was a society started during, the Civil War era, or directly after, they bought the building and built a bigger structure onto the other side of the building called the Ohio Cottage side. And people just started coming there and living there, and ended up becoming like a home for retired sailors and, military people. So it's got a history of all different kinds of things, but it's the history of the psychiatric parts. We had to like dig deep for it because it was whitewashed from the community, because it was one of those things that didn't want to be known. But it's got a history of so many different things. So there's an abundance of different spirits there, but nothing I've experienced there that's super, super evil or nasty. We have a lot of doppelganger activity. We'll see, like, people will see me. I live 3 hours away from the location, so I won't be on site, and people will hear me or see me when I know I'm not there, and they know I'm not there. So we have weird stuff like that happen too.
That is a bit strange, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's nuts.
Have you had anyone there and you've debunked their claims? We as investigators, we always try to do that, but most of the time, you experience stuff all day long there. Like I said, I've spent weeks there where I'm just doing a bunch of work. Like I put a whole new fire alarm system in this building, so there was a lot of time we were spending hours and hours working. And there'd be me and Adam Kimmel. We'd be in the building by ourselves, and we know we're the only ones in the building. But there's always that thought when you hear these weird things like somebody broke in this building. That's our first thought all the time. Yeah. So we run through this whole building, race through. The building's complete lockdown. We're like, oh, man. But I was working down this hallway one time, and going up to this next level, there's only one way to get up there. And I'm working right by the stairwell. I have all this fire alarm cable laid out in the hallway, and I'm getting ready to pull it through the pipe or whatever. And I hear somebody just take off up the stairs. And it happened 10 feet in front of me. I dropped the wire and I yelled to my buddy, Kimmel! And that's how we talk to each other. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, did you just hear that? He's like, that wasn't you. I said, no, that was right in front of me, legit running up the stairs. But, we haven't really had experiences where we had to debunk stuff, because usually we're pretty good about letting, each other know when we're in the building. And like I said, if we think somebody's in the building
breaking in, we do a complete lockdown of the building. We search every single room, and a lot of 90% of the time, things that's happened in that building has been paranormal. We can't explain it. We can't figure out where it came from.
I would just like to point out at this point, Brendan, is you are very you're a skeptical believer, aren't you? We class it as a skeptical believer. So you won't take any activity and just go, oh, it's paranormal. You do try and debunk absolutely everything, don't you?
Yeah, but once you spend enough time in, like, especially this building, it just becomes one of them things, like, you just know, like, oh, well, something's going on.
Because you know the building so much, don't you? You know all the creaks and groans and the foibles of a building. So you get to know the building. And this is one of the beauties of keep going back and getting to really know a location, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. That's 100% accurate. Like, you can be there and when somebody's walking in the building, when it's your friends or whatever, because you recognize the voices. Like you said, when somebody's yelling up the stairwell to you just by the sound. But there's other times when you just hear this weird, strange voice and you're like, what the hell was that? You know what I mean? And yeah, you can't explain what it is. And we just got to the point, like I said, where we just, stuff happens all the time around us, 24/7, and we're just like, huh. And the cool thing now about this building is we are paired up with this company called Paranormal Warehouse. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that in the UK, but we have cameras that go live, so people can watch, this building live, and even when nobody's in the building, they've had so much stuff, and we've had a lot of really cool feedback, because a lot of weird stuff happens, when no one's in the building, and it's the same kind of things that happen when we're there. We've experienced it, you know what I mean? So it's kind of cool to see people who aren't even in the location experiencing some of the same things that we personally experienced there.
Have you ever experienced anything that you wouldn't normally expect to experience?
Oh,
like you said about the history of it, is there something that you've experienced that you wouldn't have thought would have been there?
Oh, like the doppelganger stuff, like that, like I said before.
Yeah.
You see people who aren't even on the location, aren't even on the property, and, it's like, how the heck does that happen? I think outside the box a lot of times, and with, doing this for as long as I have so many different theories. And I just don't think everything is a ghost that's left behind. You know what I mean? Like, people will say that a doppelganger is a spirit mimicking you. Well, that's highly plausible, 100%. But I also believe that there's time shifts. I believe in different timelines, so this could be a projection of the past of me, for example, me being in the building, or a projection of the future. There was a guy who used to volunteer there, and he would walk around with his equipment all the time. And they seen him walking down the hallway, and they yelled to him, and they just said he was looking around like he was looking for something, or like he was investigating. And I heard that, and I'm like, that's weird. Like, he didn't respond to you, but you knew he wasn't there. And could that have been a foresight of him being there, or his energy left behind from a week ago? You know what I mean? Like, that's something I've never experienced in a place, since Madison Seminary, is these time shifts, or these doppelgangers. It's really crazy. It's really weird.
Now, I've heard of a doppelganger kind of experience while people were on location. So, like, you'd be in a room and then see what you think is one of your team members, and they weren't at that part of the location. They were somewhere different, but not whilst you're not there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's what makes
it is unusual.
100%.
Mm-hmm. So, Madison is only one of the locations you've been involved in, isn't it?
Yeah, I've been involved in a couple locations over the years, like being a tour guide and a host paranormal team. There was this place called the Twin City Opera House that that's when I got my start actually investigating. The home team that I was on, we actually used to do tours and that kind of stuff. And we did a couple documentaries on the place too. But this place was an old, it was an old opera house. It was a theater. And they still use it now. They'll play a lot of bluegrass music, and they have bands come and play. But it's actually a functioning movie theater too. But most of the inside of the building is still original, and it is highly active, highly haunted, and I never could figure out why. And, you know, it could be because of all the emotion that was poured out there because it's, you know, a theater. But some of the spirits that we've encountered there, it just doesn't make sense why they're there. And it's always been a weird thing to sit there and investigate and get all these weird, strange voices of people and, like, some of the answers that they've given back to you. And it's just like, why are you here? You know, and that was a really cool location. I haven't been there for a long time, and it's actually near and dear to my heart. I love that place so much, but I had a falling out with the team that I used to be associated with, so that's kind of why I stopped going there. But I mean, it was an incredibly beautiful place. The history of the place was amazing too, and it was in this very tiny, small river town too. So in like the early 1800s, you know, it would have been a booming town because, you know, they used to take the riverboats everywhere. So that's where all the traffic would come from, and the opera house was in the center of the square of this town, and it, you know, that's where you went. That's where all the people went for entertainment, was to go watch these plays and you know, spend their money.
Mm. Paul?
Yeah, I must admit, when I experience things going on around me in various locations, I do tend to ask myself, why would that spirit be there? Just to put some sort of logic behind it, because I mean, I've seen pictures that people have sent me, and one of them looked like a horse in an attic with a knight sitting on the top. And, you know, don't get me wrong, it did look pretty good, pretty spectacular. But then why would a knight on a horse be riding through an attic? It just made no sense to me whatsoever. And although, you know, the photo, I've got no doubt that photo was genuine. The person it come from was credible. I just can't fathom why it would be in the attic. I mean, even if the land was at a different level, which it wasn't, you know, it just baffles me why it would be there in the first place.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Like, could it have been something? There was an existing structure there before, you know, that, you know, could explain why. I mean, it's. I guess we'll never know until we're on the other side. You know what I mean?
Well,
until
no, exactly.
Figure out some device that can just tell us what it is. But
yeah, I mean, it wasn't my case, so I didn't look into it really in depth. But you know, when they asked for my opinion, that was sort of like the first thing I said. So they would have gone away and looked at all that sort of stuff. As far as I know, it was never higher than what it is now. But then it could have been a different building. You know, there could have been a different building on top of what's there now. So I just probably would never know, to be fair, unless I ask.
I mean, but yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've seen some really weird pictures too, and it's just like, what? You know, coming from credible, legit people, and it baffles your mind sometimes. Like, this doesn't even make sense. Why?
Yeah, that's it. Out of all the locations you've investigated, what's your favourite one?
Well, I'm partial to Madison Seminary, obviously, but if I could go back to another place right now today, if you said, hey, Brendan, we're going to go to this location, are you in? I'd get in my car and go right now, and that's Penhurst State School in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, here in the United States. It was a old school for the mentally challenged, mentally handicapped, and these people were savagely mistreated, and eventually the state came in and shut the school down because of how deplorable the conditions were. And the building, there was like 8 or 9 buildings, but most of them are gone now. But there was miles of underground tunnels, and I had so many crazy experiences at this place. You know, we had the whole property to ourselves for 2 nights. And it was unreal, the activity that went on there. And, I mean, I would go there right now. If somebody called me, like I said, and said, hey, you know, we're going to Penhurst, are you in? I would go right now.
Yeah. I must admit, there's loads of places in the US that I would love to go and investigate. One particular one, I think, isn't it Stanley Hotel?
Yeah, that's in Colorado.
Yeah, have you been there and investigated that one?
You know what? I haven't been there. I got a lot of friends that have been there. And everyone says it's really cool, but it's just, I guess it's one of them places where you either got to get in when you can get there, without having to deal with all the guest traffic of people staying in the hotel, or really know somebody. But I mean, I would love to go there. I'm a big Stephen King fan, and that's, where they film The Shining. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I must admit, I would have thought it'd be quite a difficult location to get hold of for that reason, because obviously it's still a hotel, and to get the location empty, it's not happening.
No, unless you're some big TV show or something.
No, that's it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, unfortunately we're not, and we can't get access to these locations, which is, because they are working buildings still, Now, you do a podcast yourself. It's Serial Spirits Podcast, don't you?
Yeah. Me and my girlfriend actually started this, and it's actually on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them.
Yeah.
I did a radio show with them, and they kind of had said something like, we're looking for whatever, for shows. And I actually had this whole idea for a show already. And I didn't want to do like a live radio show weekly. I wanted to do like a podcast. So what we do is we pre-record it, and then I put the show together. But basically the premise was we wanted to focus not just on, hauntings. We wanted to do, but the whole idea for me was I wanted to.
Hello? Anybody?
He's gone quiet.
I thought I'd lost you then as well.
I should stay quiet.
Brendan's back. Sorry, Brendan, we lost you for a moment there. What was the premise for your show?
Did you lose me? The premise for the show was I wanted to tie, true crime and hauntings together. So say you visited a location where a serial killer killed 10 people, right? And the place was haunted because of that, the staining of that crime, So I wanted to tie those two together, and the whole idea was to go to locations where these kind of things happen. But it kind of became more than that, to where, because the both of us, me and my girlfriend Annie Weible, we are both obsessed with true crime. So it became more like, do you guys remember the show Unsolved Mysteries? Did you have that over there?
Yes.
In the late 80s? Yes. With Robert Stack. Mm-hmm. That's basically what we wanted to make the show. So, we do a lot of crime serial killer stories, but we also will focus on cryptids and, UFO stuff and anything really paranormal, but mysteries too. We're 6 episodes in. We've gotten great feedback, and we're going to keep doing it. But we just actually released an episode yesterday. Today's Tuesday? Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was the story of Cropsy, the Staten Island boogeyman. And basically, it was an urban legend in my hometown of Staten Island, New York. But it actually was about a serial killer, this guy who was convicted of murdering this young girl who was my third cousin. And so when Annie was doing the research, she's talking about this story. And I'm like, that story sounds familiar. And, she's talking about the victim. And I said, oh, yeah, that was my third cousin. I remember when my dad was going on the search parties looking for her. So we dove into that whole story, covered that thing, and kind of brought that to light. And that got some really good, I guess, responses. So, we kind of cover a whole array of stuff, but it's been really fun to do. It's been really fun to sit there and edit it and, really see it kind of blossom into what it could become. And I eventually would like to make it into some kind of web series or, do a full maybe 2-hour documentary on a case and go that route too.
That sounds awesome. Now, with your podcasting, like you said, you take these real life stories and link them into the paranormal. It sounds very much like you have to do an awful lot of digging for your information. Where do you do your research?
I had lost you there for a second, so I didn't hear the whole question.
Okay, I said, where do you do your research for your show to link the paranormal and the historical fact together?
Well, the internet obviously is a whirlwind of information, but we actually try, Like, we just recorded an episode this past weekend where me and her were actually watching a documentary, and it was about this woman who was murdered, and she, was left in the woods, and nobody for 40 years had any idea who this woman was. They called her Mountain Jane Doe. And we were watching the documentary, and we're like, this guy got on there, and what he does is he goes around and he looks for missing people and tries to link them back with their family, these John and Jane Does. We called this guy up, we got a hold of him, and we did a whole hour-long interview with him and this other woman, Darla, who was on the documentary too, and they gave us a whirlwind of information. So we'll not only just look stuff up, look the location, the region, look stuff up on the cases, but we'll also try to get in contact with a lot of the people who had firsthand accounts, with, like, say, the hauntings or, the murders or that kind of stuff. So, it's just, Annie's the one who does a lot of the research. I'm just the kind of, the tech guy who does all the editing and whatever. She's really the brainchild behind the whole, how we do the episodes. But yeah, I mean, it's just, there's a whirlwind of ways to do it. And, we call it, we've hashtagged it on our show, the wormhole of weirdness, because once you start doing this research, it takes you down this rabbit hole, and you just can't stop till you, that you want to tell the story and the true story. So you find any means necessary to get the truth and the information.
Oh, I'm totally with you on that. And sometimes I was having this conversation last night, actually. So people don't understand that some nights you will do hours of research and come up with nothing for your case that you're looking for. And other nights you might just find one tiny nugget that leads you down another rabbit hole for the case that you're researching at the time. It's that's the trouble with research, isn't it, Brendan?
Oh, that's 100% the trouble with research, and that's why I always tell people, like, to go back to the paranormal, like to the ghost hunting and haunting. Like, I've done a lot of private residence cases, and I always try to do the history of a location, especially if a family calls you and says, "Hey, we're having this problem. Can you figure out what's going on?" And I think that history is the most important part about it, to figure it out. And one thing I've learned, especially being part of Madison Seminary, is that you can go to the history books, you can go to the library, you can look up things, but the real history comes from the people. The people who live in the area, who've known about local history, about the secrets and the stories that people don't want out there or don't want written in the books. Those are the people you go to first. And there's a show that I love. It's called The Curse of Oak Island. And
see, now you're on Paul's wavelength. Now you're on Paul's wavelength.
So what do they always say? Boots on the ground, right? You get boots on the ground, and that's how you get how you get the answers. You know what I mean? And that's exactly how I feel. Like, you got to get boots on the ground. You got to do the work, and you can't just rely on the internet all the time. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just don't have the means to go and get the research you need. But if you have the means to do it, it's got to be more than just the internet.
And I think that also proves what you said about your research going in different directions all the time, because especially in the Oak Island thing, they find one bit of evidence and it leads to, I don't know, the Spanish, and then the next minute it's like Knights Templar, and then next minute it leads somewhere else. And I do know exactly what you mean with that, because again, it's the same with us when we do our podcasts. We talk about different subjects every week, and I mean, Kerry will tell you, we often go down a particular path that's got nothing to do with the initial subject.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
Well, I'll tell you one thing right now. People have asked me before, like, if you could meet any person who's on TV or in the movies, who would you want to meet? Or who's your hero? And I always say Rick and Marty Lagina. Those guys are my heroes. Like, I love those two guys so much. I would love if somebody came to me and said, "We're going to send you to Oak Island to help Rick and Marty Lagina. We can't pay you. We'll just feed you." I'd be like, "All right, I'm on board. That's cool."
Yeah, I'd be up for that.
I just want to give a heads up down to the people in the chat room. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. It's lovely to see you all in there tonight. Amanda has asked you, what about in the UK? Where would you love to investigate most in the UK?
Well, I don't know much about the UK, but I mean, I know there's a lot there's thousands. There's not like, the United States has hundreds of years of history. Over there's thousands of years of history. One of the things people always say is castles. I mean, I would love to go see a castle, but I would love to just walk around London. I actually have an aunt who is from England. She's from Poole, England, and I've never gotten over there. So I would love to investigate anywhere over there.
Well, give us a shout when you come over, Brendan. We'll show you some sights. Is all I can say on that. And I will say this on the research front: it's hard, isn't it, researching in any country? I mean, I'm researching a case at the moment, and it is like a nightmare with dates and trying to figure out dates, and it goes back so far to try and work it out. And so, would you say it would be easier to research somewhere in America or the UK?
I think it would probably be easier in the United States. I mean, like I said, you guys have thousands of years of history over there. Where like, of course, we have Native Americans who were here and the indigenous people but as far as like actual history record keeping, what I mean? It goes much further back with you guys than with the United States. But, I mean, I couldn't imagine saying, well, this building is 175 years old, whereas opposed to this building is 896 years old. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So much stuff has happened in one building that's 896 years old as opposed to 175 years old. You know what I mean? So I couldn't even imagine doing the research on that. It'd be fun. It would be time consuming.
Plenty of rabbit holes is all I'm saying on that one. Plenty. Now, Amanda actually has said she lives a couple of miles away from Berry Pomeroy Castle. So, we'll have to hit Amanda up if you come over, Brendan, and get her to show us the Berry Pomeroy Castle for you.
That would be incredible.
How lucky. She only lives a couple of miles away as well. So she gets to investigate there. How awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I'm going to have to look that up. Nosy. Very nosy over here.
See if it's for sale. See how much they want for it.
Gosh, could you imagine buying a castle? Oh, could you imagine? Could you imagine the upkeep though? Oh, that would be awful. The heating bill must be horrendous.
We got a 72,000 square foot building. It's massive. It's massive upkeep, but it's fun to have.
Oh, I can imagine it is. That's bad enough. This castle. Oh, wow. This castle is awesome. Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent. I've actually gone off on a tangent looking at Berry Pomeroy. I've gone down a rabbit hole. Wow. Check, honestly, guys, if you don't know this place, you need to check this one out because it looks absolutely beautiful. And Amanda, you are very, very lucky to have this just down the road from you. Gosh. Awesome. Anyway, back to Brendan in America, in Ohio. Now, you know my Jay Lynch, don't you?
Yeah, Jay, I've known Jay for quite a few years.
When was the last time? Did you investigate with him? Have you done that?
Oh, yeah. Jay and Teresa actually helped me on, 3 or 4 private residence cases. The last one was a couple years ago, which actually the story ended up on Paranormal Survivor on Destination America. Yeah, it was Destination America over here in the United States. And they featured our story on there. And it was actually a really intriguing story. But Teresa, Jay's wife, actually came in and did the cleansing. And I think she was the lifesaver of that whole story because, they really haven't had any problems since.
Oh, she's very talented, is our Teresa. I have to say, a very talented lady.
She is. We done a location, me and a couple of others, and Richard Clements, the guy who started Parasearch. We went to a location in Hull in the UK, and she done a remote viewing of the location, and she was really quite accurate. She impressed me that night.
Wow.
Yeah, she was really good.
That was at De Grey, wasn't it?
Yeah, De Grey Street. Yeah. It was an interesting location. A lot went on, but it was more residual energy as opposed to intelligent hauntings. And from what we got when we were there, it was almost like they just wanted to be left alone. So we just respected that and left and never gone back. But it was a good location, absolutely. Something that people should experience. Yeah.
What do you feel then about across the pond investigation? So where we've got an investigation going on in the UK, we Skype people in from America. How do you feel that would work, Brendan?
I mean, I think it would work. I mean, you know, I know people who actually, like I was talking about it earlier, Michelle Bellinger, who can remote view and are pretty powerful at it. And you know, yeah, I mean, I could see it. I could see it working. Even like just Skyping somebody who's not psychic or whatever, just to ask questions. You know, just the personalities. You know, the different personalities. Maybe the different accent would trigger, you know, a response from a spirit. It's hard to say, but I mean, yeah, I'm all about experimenting with whatever techniques.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, you know, we had a lot of Americans over here for the World Wars. If we was doing a World War location, having an American come in on that investigation, and okay, so you can't be physically there, but doing it that way might bring interesting results. Obviously, you'd have to discount any data because of the link that you've got going on, but it would be interesting to see, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It really
definitely
would.
Something.
Paul, sorry?
Yeah, I said it'd definitely be something that we could work on. Definitely.
Yeah,
depending on location as well. I mean, like, for example, Ruffin Towers would be a good one.
Yeah.
To get some Americans on. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking, because it is very interesting to see that crossover. We've done it a couple of times with Yosei when we was at the pub thing. He was Skyping in while we were from America while we were doing the live, and it was really interesting to see him picking stuff up in America the same as the medium in the UK at the location were picking up at the same time, and they were responding to things that were happening and going on around us and saying things almost exactly the same time, even though there was a time difference, even though there was a Skype link. Do you know what I mean? It became an incredibly interesting experiment to see how that worked. So maybe that's something the UK and USA contingencies should be looking at a little bit more. Maybe, just as an idea, throwing it out there.
I'm not sure that I'd want to volunteer to be in the US investigating, though. Given the whole history with Britain and the US, and the fact that some of the American Civil War and like the British, you know, when they fight the British over there, there was so much animosity between us.
But that might be, but that emotional trigger might be what would help encourage activity. Do you see what I mean?
But then, just by us being there, would that not be antagonising spirit?
Not necessarily, because you're not going in there antagonistically. You're just there as an English person. It's their emotions towards you, not the other way around. You're not going in there going, "Oi, you come here," are you? You know, I went full blown London there. Oi, you. You know, you're not going in there that way, but it might help create that emotional response from spirit towards you, which would maybe, I don't know, I mean, it's just an idea, everybody. So maybe it's an area that the USA UK contingency could possibly explore a little more and not be afraid to. I mean, we're starting to bring more tech into the field in regards to our phones and our iPads and stuff like that. So you wouldn't be able to use any technical readings that you get, because obviously you've got that link going through. But from a spiritual mediumistic perspective, it possibly could bring up some interesting results. Yeah, very similar to the Singapore theory, but using each other rather than music or, you know, it's very, very Singapore, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely intriguing, one to look out for. And we should definitely go and do that. It's a Parasearch project. We should go to the US.
Well, we should
Kerry.
go to. We should do that too. But that ain't going to happen anytime soon. The same way as the poor old Brendan can't come over to the UK just like that, can he? It doesn't always work that way. So, but this is a good way of involving each other in the paranormal field together. Broadening our paranormal pond, shall we say?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. The paranormal pond.
Bringing us together rather than broadening the pond.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Absolutely. And I think forward in the paranormal, us working together. There's a lot of teams out there that like to be different from others and be on their own. They're very secretive and, they can only prove so much on their own. It's when they start working together with other people and progressing forward is when they make the leaps and bounds.
And you found that as well, haven't you, Brendan, by working with different people in different teams? Like you said, you work with James Reeser, you work with Paranormal Warehouse. You're broadening your team, as it were. So you're not just sticking to the same people all the time.
No, I mean, everybody has different ideas, you know what I mean? And that's what you guys were saying. You broaden your horizons a little bit and, you feed off each other, and some people think outside the box. Some people, have different methods of doing things, but not, they're all not wrong. Everybody learns off each other.
Oh yeah, it's all about learning off of each other, isn't it? What's the one thing that you have learned from your experiences in the field? The one piece of advice you would give to somebody coming new into the field?
That's a toughie. Not everything is black and white. Not everything is what you see on TV, without a doubt. I mean, you experience it for yourself to understand it, and it's 100% not like you see it on TV. But my whole experience is that I did it for a spiritual reason, because I didn't know what this was, and get in it for the right reason. Don't just get into it and go into a place and think you're going to conjure up, Satan or Charlie, or and also you got to be respectful. You have to respect these people, because especially if you're looking for ghosts and spirits, like it is still a person just without a body. Mm-hmm. And I do believe they have feelings and emotions too. So that's my advice, I guess.
Yeah, that's excellent. I agree, and I'm with you. I think they still have emotions and feelings too. Otherwise, why would they bother?
Indeed, and so I gave someone some advice the other day, because they were looking into breaking into the paranormal, and I said to them about, in particular, at the moment in the UK. I don't know if it's as bad as it is in the US, but there's a lot of people bullying and backstabbing. And I said to them, if you're quite a sensitive person and that affects you, then maybe you shouldn't get into it just yet. Just leave
Hello?
it. Hello. I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I kept saying I was losing network.
Yeah, it is being patchy. I'm going to say that it is being a little patchy,
well,
but we can still get
like
you.
Like I said before, it's like super windy here, so it's probably here.
Ah, okay. So what's up next for you, Brendan? What's up in 2019 for you? Where are your paranormal goals?
2019 is going to be a bigger year than last year. We conquered the juggernaut of Madison Seminary, saving it. It's open for the public. We were on a couple TV shows last year, but 2019, our team, Resident Undead, we're going to film in some pretty incredible locations. We keep the locations secretive for the time being, but we got some great places that we're going to go and investigate. And Serial Spirits, our podcast, we're hoping, like I said, to do a documentary sometime towards the end of the year. But yeah, I mean, just going to roll with the punches, yo.
You most
Indeed.
certainly do. So have you got anywhere that I know you're going to be filming, but just for investigating, fun purposes, what's on your list for investigating this year? Or have you not got that far yet?
I haven't got that far yet, to be honest.
Neither have I, so don't worry. I know I'm going to be out and about more this year than I was last, but I haven't quite got that far to organise myself into that one yet. Still early days, right?
Oak Island's on the bucket list.
Oh, yeah, of course. Oak Island, 100%.
I don't think they've started doing tours there yet, though, have they?
You know what? They have actually brought in a paranormal investigation team in one of the early series of the show.
Yeah, I think it was season 1 they did.
Yeah, I did see that one. Not that they found too much, but it's still an intriguing place, just for the history. I mean, I love history, and if I could, my dream job would be an archaeologist. So I would love to go there, and I'd get stuck in with the rest of them.
God, sounds like you and Brendan would be on there together.
You actually know who has the best job. You know who Josh Gates is? You've seen his show. Yep. He had a show, he has the best job in the world because he gets to go all over the world and just do history stuff. And, oh, man. Lucky bastard.
This is why I like doing the paranormal, because you go to all these locations and you get to go there when no one else is around. As like the team manager, I get there before the rest of the staff as well, and I get a guided tour all on my own. I can have a wander around, soak up the atmosphere when no one else is there, and it's absolutely fantastic. As you said, it's like about experiencing what it was like to be there. I've been in prisons and all sorts of things, and it's just fantastic when it's all when you're all on your own.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so I think we have actually come to the end of the show. We've got about 3 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kerry, what's coming up in the following week?
Well, tomorrow evening, as you all know, our lovely Penny is still on her holidays. How dare she still have a holiday? Well, she's not actually on a holiday. She's doing other projects at the moment. So she isn't going to be on live tomorrow night. But there is a poll going over on our Parasearch Radio group page with some options of what you would like to have another listen to. At the moment, I believe the Pendle Witch Trials is at the top of the leaderboard. So if you want to register your vote of what needs to be or what's going to be played out tomorrow night, then go over there and register your vote. On Thursday evening, PSH Radio launches on Parasearch Radio. They have got Celia Ann Ramos and Jonathan Eisenhower from Paranormal Voyagers on with them. Then on Friday evening, the madness and mayhem of the Dark Mirror Show goes on. We're talking about the apparitions of Our Lady of Fatima in Portugal this week. That's where we're going on that one. So God knows what the lads will come up with for that. Because trust me, I can see aliens and ufology all over that one. And then on Sunday, I've got Claire Hinks and Lisa Michaels in the studio. And we're going more spiritual. We're going with more spiritual vibe on Sunday. We're talking about goals and resolutions and how you can actually manifest your goals and resolutions for 2019. So that's what we've got coming up for the rest of the week. What are we doing next week on Paranormal Concept, Paul?
I don't know. Have we decided? Because I thought you was going to do the second week. You said that you had someone else in line, but they didn't get back to you or something.
Yeah, no, they still haven't got back to me, so we're going to have to pick a topic.
Well, how rude. That's disgusting.
Yeah, they won't be on again, don't worry.
Okay, that's fine. Not a problem.
Because I'm like that.
Well, I'm sure we can throw in a surprise show. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure we'll come up with something.
Of course we will, and it'll be absolutely fantastic as always.
Obviously. Oh, dear. Yeah, so, and isn't something happening on Saturday as well? Yes.
Are you going to announce it or not?
Well, I will, but I need to just double check that they're going to do it for me, quite frankly. So I better not, because she might literally travel down and stab me. So... And I know she's listening.
Just
so
hide underneath the coffee table.
I know she's listening. So yeah, I don't really want to be stabbed right now. So I'll talk to the lady in question before I announce it. I think that would be the polite thing to do. Everybody, I would just like to say.
So basically, Saturday and next week we just wing it. That's it, sorted.
Anyway, thank you so much, Brendan, for joining us tonight. It's been lovely talking to you again. Oh, I think he's dropped. Oh, I think he's gone.
No, I think he's still there. I think he's having some technical issues.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
still here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been great speaking to you again.
Guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. It's been fun. I had a blast.
And I'll catch up with you soon.
And thank you, everybody in the chat room. Absolutely fantastic seeing you all there and having your support, and hopefully it carries on through the year. Absolutely. So all that remains for me to say is good night from me.
And it's good night from me.
Thank you for listening.
Good.
Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.